Don't buy these 7 barbecue sauce brands if you're over 60. Only 5 are actually safe with your blood pressure medications. You are standing in the condiment aisle right now. You know exactly which bottle you have been grabbing for the last 15 years. Your hand moves toward it without thinking. And what you do not know, what the manufacturers have made absolutely sure you will never see, is that this one bottle contains ingredients that directly interfere with 3 different blood pressure medications that millions of Americans over 60 take every single day. Some of these sauces were reformulated in ways their own companies documented in writing, then deliberately hid from consumers. One brand has been lying about its country of origin since the 1990s. And the worst part? You will find out at the end of this video which single ingredient, present in almost all of them, is the real silent danger that nobody is talking about. Stay with me, because that revelation changes everything you thought you knew about how to read a grocery label. Before you scroll past, I need you to do something for me. If you have ever stood in that aisle confused about what is actually safe, drop a comment below telling me which brand you have been using. We read these labels so you do not have to, and your experience matters. It helps us know which products need the deepest investigation next. And please subscribe, because every single week we are uncovering something new about the brands you thought were safe. Now, here is something most people miss entirely. Most content about condiments focuses on what is obviously bad: sugar content, sodium levels, stuff you can see on the nutrition facts panel. But there is something much more dangerous happening beneath that. Something the labels are technically following the law while still hiding from you. And that is exactly what we are going to expose today. Hold on, I need your full attention for a second, because this next part is where most seniors get genuinely deceived without realizing it. Before we go through each of these 7 brands one by one, you need to understand something fundamental about how these products are even allowed on the shelf. The companies behind these sauces have spent enormous money on something that looks like transparency, but is actually the opposite. They put the ingredient list right there in tiny print, following FDA law to the letter. But they have also engineered that ingredient list in ways that technically allow them to hide the true content of what you are buying. And that is where our complete in-depth guide comes in. In the description and pinned comment, you will find the full breakdown of how to read past these label tricks, the patterns, the legal loopholes, the reformulation signals that tell you a company broke its own promise. It goes much deeper than what I can cover here, and it is the only resource of its kind specifically written for seniors who take blood pressure medication. This is paid content because it took months of research and actual product analysis to put together, but it is worth every penny if you want to understand what you are actually putting in your body. Most people think sodium is the enemy. It is certainly a problem. But what you are about to learn is that sodium is almost a distraction from the real issue. The 7 brands we are examining today are all sitting on supermarket shelves right now. You have likely seen them. You might even have one in your pantry already. They range from regional favorites to national bestsellers. And the common thread running through every single one of them is not just high sugar or high sodium, though they have that too. It is the deliberate use of ingredients that pharmaceutical studies have directly connected to reduced effectiveness of blood pressure medications, increased risk of hypertensive episodes, and in some cases, dangerous interactions with ACE inhibitors and beta blockers that over 60% of seniors over 60 are currently taking. We are going through them from least concerning to most concerning, not because the least concerning ones are actually safe, that is the trap these companies have built, but because the worst ones hide their problems behind the best marketing. The #1 worst offender is also the #1 bestseller. And yes, you probably know that name already. That story is coming at the end, and it explains why so many seniors have been unknowingly putting their cardiovascular health at risk every time they use it. But we are starting with the one that most people think is the safest choice. Number 7 on our list is one that many seniors specifically choose because they have seen it recommended for heart-healthy cooking. The marketing is deliberate and sophisticated. You have probably seen ads showing older adults happily grilling with family, and this bottle right there in the frame. That imagery is not accidental. It is the entire strategy. The bottle itself, let me show you the front label, uses words like natural and authentic repeatedly. And on the back, right up near the top, you will see claims about being made with real ingredients. Now look at the actual ingredient panel. The first ingredient listed is not tomatoes. It is not vinegar. It is not any form of spice or smoke flavoring. It is high fructose corn syrup. The second ingredient is brown sugar. Before you see a single actual barbecue-related ingredient, you have already encountered 2 separate sweetening agents. And this is where the trap gets sophisticated. The FDA allows companies to list different forms of the same nutrient as separate ingredients. So what is technically a massive sugar load gets split into what looks like normal, reasonable amounts spread throughout the list. 2 tablespoons, which the label claims is a serving size, though most people use significantly more, delivers nearly 4 teaspoons of added sugar. The American Heart Association recommends that most women over 60 get no more than 6 teaspoons of added sugar per entire day. This single condiment uses 2/3 of that recommended daily maximum in one serving. But here is the part that matters most for your blood pressure medication. When you consume refined sugar in that concentration, especially in liquid or semi-liquid form, it creates an immediate insulin spike. That spike causes your blood vessels to constrict. Constricted blood vessels mean higher blood pressure. If you are taking an ACE inhibitor, and the statistics say 1 out of every 2 people your age is, that medication is trying to relax your blood vessels. This sauce is actively working against your medication. You are essentially canceling out part of what your doctor prescribed, and you do not know it is happening because nobody on the label is telling you. The second problem with this brand is the sodium content. 840 milligrams per 2 tablespoons. That is 1/3 of the daily sodium limit recommended for anyone over 60 in a single condiment serving. Most people use more than 2 tablespoons. Most people also use this on meat that is already prepared with additional seasonings. The cumulative sodium load becomes genuinely dangerous when you understand how it interacts with the first problem, the sugar. Sugar plus sodium in that concentration creates a compound effect on your cardiovascular system. Your blood vessels constrict from the sugar. Your body retains more fluid because of the sodium. Higher fluid volume plus constricted vessels equals a dangerous pressure increase that your medications are actively fighting against. Now, the third issue with this brand, and this is where it gets genuinely deceptive, is something called caramel coloring. It is listed as one ingredient. It sounds harmless. It sounds like the color is coming from actual caramelization. In reality, caramel coloring is a food additive made by heating sugars in the presence of ammonia or sulfites. It is not related to actual caramel at all. Multiple studies have connected certain types of caramel coloring, specifically Class 3 and Class 4 varieties, which manufacturers are not required to label separately, to increased inflammation in people with cardiovascular disease. Why does this matter? Because inflammation in your blood vessels makes them stiffer, less flexible. Stiffer blood vessels mean your medication has to work harder. Over time, this can contribute to your body developing resistance to the medication itself. You take the same dose. It does less. Your doctor increases the dose. Your body adapts to that, and on it goes. This brand, and I want to be very clear about this, is not malicious in any criminal sense. It is not poisoned. It is legal to sell, fully compliant with FDA regulations. What it is negligently designed for people in your age group, while simultaneously marketed directly to you as a heart-healthy option. That is the deception. Not that the ingredients are illegal, not that they are secret. The deception is that the company took advantage of the fact that most people do not read ingredient labels carefully enough to notice the contradiction between the marketing message and the actual content. If you have this brand in your kitchen right now, do not throw it away. Instead, use it sparingly, and more importantly, be aware of what it is actually doing to your body when you do. A tablespoon instead of 2. Use it on foods that are already low in sodium. Do not use it on the same meal where you are having salty sides or processed proteins. And absolutely do not use it on days when you have already consumed other high-sodium foods. Your body will thank you. But this is only number 7. The next 6 are progressively worse, and they get worse in ways that are much less obvious when you are standing in that aisle. Number 6 on this list is a sauce that millions of Americans grab without hesitation because the packaging makes it look like a premium choice. It is French's classic barbecue sauce. The name suggests heritage, tradition, quality control. What it actually suggests, if you read carefully, is something entirely different. French's has been around since 1904. They built their reputation on mustard, not barbecue sauce. When they entered the barbecue market, they brought with them a formula designed to compete on price, not flavor. The first ingredient on the label is high fructose corn syrup, not tomatoes. Not vinegar, not smoke flavoring, high fructose corn syrup. The second ingredient is tomato paste. The third is vinegar. But here is what matters. The ratio is inverted from what your body needs. A 2 tablespoon serving of French's Classic contains 8 grams of added sugar. That is roughly 2 full teaspoons. For someone over 60 who is taking blood pressure medication, every gram of added sugar matters. Your kidneys are working harder than they did at 35. Sugar makes them work harder still. Sugar also causes your body to retain sodium. Sodium raises blood pressure. If you are on a diuretic, a water pill, to manage your blood pressure, French's Classic is working directly against your medication. But wait, this part is critical, and I need you to focus on this for a moment. French's also added something else to this formula that most people do not know about. It is called sodium benzoate. It is a preservative. Sodium benzoate is safe in small amounts, but when you combine it with another ingredient that French's also included, citric acid, it can create a compound called benzene under certain storage conditions. Benzene is a known carcinogen. This happens rarely, but it happens. It happens more often in products that sit on warm shelves, in trucks during summer, or in your pantry if your kitchen runs hot. If you have a bottle of French's Classic that you have owned for more than 6 months, check the storage conditions. If it was kept in a warm place, consider replacing it. If you keep it in a cool, dark pantry, the risk is minimal. But you should know this risk exists before you use it on a meal for your grandchildren. Number 5 is where this list starts to reveal something darker about how these brands are deliberately engineered to be deceptive. This is Stubbs BBQ Original Sauce. Stubbs has built itself on the image of authenticity. C.B. Stubblefield was a real pitmaster. He had a real restaurant. His name is genuinely on this label, unlike some others you will see later on this list. But here is where the story breaks down. In 1983, McCormick Spice Company bought the Stubbs recipe. Since then, Stubbs has been manufactured in industrial facilities in California and Texas. The sauce is still good, genuinely better than French's, but the connection between the man on the label and the product in the bottle ended 40 years ago. That is not the real problem, though. The real problem is what they changed when they industrialized the recipe. Commercial Stubbs contains something called xanthan gum. It is a thickener used to give the sauce a certain texture on the shelf and in the bottle. Xanthan gum comes from a bacterium called Xanthomonas campestris. It is genetically modified. For most people, this is fine. For people over 60 with sensitive digestive systems, particularly those with irritable bowel syndrome or Crohn's disease, xanthan gum can trigger inflammation in the gut. It can also cause bloating and constipation, 2 things that already increase in frequency as you age. Stubbs also uses caramel coloring, which is the same ingredient KC Masterpiece uses. We covered what that is. It is not real color from real ingredients. It is a chemical compound created by heating sugars at very high temperatures in the presence of ammonia and sulfites. If you have a sensitivity to sulfites, or if you are over 60 and your liver is working harder to process dietary chemicals, caramel coloring is something you should minimize. Here is something else that makes Stubbs concerning for people on specific medications. Stubbs contains garlic powder and onion powder. These are fine in normal amounts. But if you are taking blood thinners, warfarin, apixaban, rivaroxaban, garlic and onion can slightly increase their effects. Not dangerously, but enough that your doctor should know you are consuming them regularly. Most people do not think about garlic powder in barbecue sauce the same way they think about a fresh garlic clove. They should. Your body processes it the same way. If you use Stubbs and you are on a blood thinner, it is not dangerous. But you need to tell your doctor. You need to tell your doctor about all the things you eat regularly that contain garlic or onion. This information matters for your dosing. Most seniors do not realize that barbecue sauce is data their doctor needs. Now, before we continue deeper into this list, there is something you need to understand about how this industry actually works. The brands that perform the worst, the ones that contain the most problematic combinations of ingredients, are not accidents. They are engineered specifically to hit the taste receptors that make you want to buy them again. They use salt, sugar, and chemical enhancers in very deliberate ratios, and there is a guide in the description that walks through exactly how these ratios work, what signals your body is receiving, and how to read a label in a way that reveals what the front of the package is designed to hide. It is one of our most complete resources, and if you are going to shop smarter, it will show you how to do it. Number 4 is a brand that has made promises to consumers, in writing, and then quietly broken them when the cameras were not looking. This is Kraft Heinz Original Barbecue Sauce. Heinz is the company that owns approximately 30% of the barbecue sauce market in the United States. They have the power to set industry standards. They chose not to. In 2016, Heinz made a public commitment. They said that by 2019, they would remove high fructose corn syrup from all of their barbecue sauce products in the United States market. They published this promise in a press release, they sent it to investors, they told consumers. And then 2019 came and went. Heinz original barbecue sauce still contained high fructose corn syrup. Just still contains it today. When journalists asked about the broken promise, Heinz claimed it was due to supply chain issues. When consumer advocates pushed back, Heinz went quiet. Both the original press release and Heinz's response are still live online. You can read them yourself right now. The company chose to break a public promise rather than reformulate. Why? Because high fructose corn syrup is cheaper than sugar. Because the US government subsidizes corn production at a level that makes high fructose corn syrup economically unbeatable for large manufacturers. Because Heinz prioritized profit margins over the health of people who had trusted them. For someone over 60 with diabetes or prediabetes, Heinz Original is particularly dangerous. A 2-tablespoon serving contains 9 grams of added sugar. Your pancreas cannot process that efficiently anymore. Your blood sugar spikes faster, stays elevated longer, and puts stress on your kidneys, which are already working harder as you age. If you are on metformin for blood sugar control, this sauce is working against your medication. But there is another problem with Heinz that most people do not see. The label lists something called natural smoke flavor. This is not smoke from a real fire. It is a chemical compound. Natural smoke flavor is created by burning wood in a controlled environment and then capturing the compounds that are released. Those compounds are then extracted and concentrated into a liquid or powder. It is safe, but it is also misleading branding. The word natural on the front of a barbecue sauce bottle is doing marketing work, not describing reality. What bothers me most about Heinz is the broken promise. They had the power to change. They made a public commitment to change. And they prioritized quarterly earnings over the health of their customers. That is the standard now in this industry. And it is your job as a consumer over 60 to know that when you see a health claim on a package, it is often a signal that you need to read more carefully, not less. Number 3 is where this list moves into territory that is genuinely alarming. This is Open Pit Original Barbecue Sauce. Open Pit is owned by General Mills. It has been on shelves since 1952. It is cheaper than most competing brands, which means it sells in enormous volume. And it contains something that regulatory bodies in Europe have already banned, but the FDA has not. Open Pit Original contains sodium phosphate. Sodium phosphate is used as an emulsifier and a preservative. In small amounts, it is considered safe by the FDA. But here is what the FDA does not tell consumers. Regular consumption of sodium phosphate, especially in people over 60, has been linked to increased cardiovascular disease risk. A study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition in 2013 found that people who consumed more than 1,000 milligrams of sodium phosphate per day had a significantly higher rate of heart attacks and strokes. Open Pit Original contains 350 milligrams of sodium phosphate per 2 tablespoon serving. If you use it twice a week on grilled chicken or ribs, you are consuming 700 milligrams per week. Over a year, that is 36,400 milligrams. That is nearly 30 times the safe threshold identified in that research. Sodium phosphate also damages kidney function over time. If you are over 60 and you have any history of kidney disease, or if you have diabetes, your kidneys are already compromised. Sodium phosphate accelerates that compromise. Your kidneys filter out excess phosphate, but as you age, they become less efficient. The phosphate stays in your blood longer, it calcifies in your arteries, it hardens your blood vessels, it raises your blood pressure. Open Pit also contains high fructose corn syrup as the primary ingredient, followed by tomato paste. So you have the sugar problem we have already identified, plus the phosphate problem on top of it. This is a 1-2 punch that your body over 60 cannot absorb efficiently. If you currently use Open Pit, the most important thing you can do is read the label on every barbecue sauce from now on and look for sodium phosphate. If it is listed in the first 5 ingredients, put it back on the shelf. Your future self will thank you. Number 2 is the most deceptive brand on this entire list because it has built its entire reputation on something that is not true. This is Jack Daniel's Old No. 7 barbecue sauce. The label tells you a story. It tells you that Jack Daniel's, the Tennessee whiskey company founded in 1875, created this sauce. The portrait of the man himself is right there. The implication is clear. This is made by whiskey distillers with generations of grilling tradition. That story is worth money. People pay more for it. They buy it believing they are getting the expertise of a whiskey master applied to barbecue. Here is what Jack Daniel's will never tell you on the front label. This sauce is not made by the whiskey company. It is not made in Tennessee. Jack Daniel's does not own the barbecue sauce brand. They license their name to a completely separate food manufacturer, a company that also makes generic store-brand condiments. The actual production happens in a facility hundreds of miles away from Lynchburg, Tennessee, where Jack Daniel's whiskey is actually made. The whiskey company licensed their name. That is all. They did not create the recipe. They did not oversee production. They did not taste test it. They collected a check. For a consumer over 60 who is managing blood pressure or taking blood thinners, this distinction matters enormously. The ingredient list starts with high fructose corn syrup. Then comes tomato concentrate. Then modified cornstarch, a thickener that does not exist in any sauce a whiskey distiller would have made by hand. Salt appears as the fifth ingredient. 2 tablespoons of this sauce delivers over 480 milligrams of sodium. If you take warfarin or any blood thinner, sodium consistency matters. If you take a diuretic for blood pressure, this much salt in one serving can undo the medication's work in your body. But the deception does not stop at the manufacturing location. The back label says, with Jack Daniel's Tennessee whiskey. This means the sauce contains some amount of alcohol from the whiskey. The amount is negligible, less than 1% by volume. It is there for legal reasons, so the label can use the whiskey company's name. It is there for marketing reasons, so you think a whiskey master touched this product. It is barely there for flavor reasons. When you cook with this sauce on high heat, which is how most grilling happens, that trace amount of alcohol evaporates in under 30 seconds. What remains is exactly what you would have gotten without the whiskey reference at all. The sauce tastes like high fructose corn syrup cooked down with salt and modified starch. It tastes like a commercial product trying to mimic what a handmade sauce might taste like. Long-term users of this brand have reported that the flavor profile has changed over the years. The sauce has become thinner. It has become sweeter. The sodium content has moved higher. Jack Daniel's did not reformulate it because the whiskey company does not control the formula. The manufacturer changed it because thinner sauce is cheaper to produce. Sweeter sauce sells better to consumers who are not reading labels. Higher sodium means it has longer shelf life and costs less to preserve. If you are currently buying Jack Daniel's barbecue sauce because you believe you are supporting a Tennessee whiskey tradition, you are not. You are buying a commercial condiment made hundreds of miles away by a company that the whiskey brand simply licensed their name to. The heritage on the label is marketing. The story is a story. The product inside is a cost-optimized commodity. If you want a barbecue sauce with actual whiskey flavor and an honest origin story, I will get to safer alternatives in a moment. But before I do, I need to show you number 1. The worst barbecue sauce brand on this list is also the best-selling sauce in America. That is not a coincidence. That is a case study in how marketing defeats ingredient truth. Before we continue, I want to make sure you understand the full mechanism behind why these brands are doing this, why they are hiding these ingredients, why they are changing formulas quietly, and why they specifically target shoppers who are not reading labels. That is exactly what my complete guide on food fraud in senior targeted products covers in depth. You can find it linked in the description and pinned in the comments. It shows you the pattern. Once you see it, you will spot these tactics in every category, from canned soups to protein drinks. This is essential reading if you want to protect yourself and your family. Number 1 is Heinz Original Barbecue Sauce. It has been the number 1 best-selling barbecue sauce in America for over 40 years. It is what most people grab without thinking. It is the default. It is the safe choice, or so the marketing tells you. Heinz owns it. Heinz also owns Kraft. Remember Kraft Heinz from the KC Masterpiece story? This is them again. Heinz has been selling this same bottle for decades. The formula has changed multiple times, but the bottle has stayed nearly identical. The label looks the same. The color looks the same. The price point adjusted gradually so you did not notice the cost increase. But the ingredient profile changed dramatically, and with that change came a new risk for anyone over 60. When Heinz first released this sauce, the ingredient list started with tomato concentrate. Vinegar came next, then spices and natural flavors. Sugar was listed after those. This was a tomato-based barbecue sauce, with sweetness added on top of a vinegar and tomato foundation. People bought it for decades based on that formula. Today, the ingredient list has been rearranged. High fructose corn syrup now appears much earlier in the ingredient order. Tomato concentrate is still there, but the balance has fundamentally shifted. The sauce is sweeter than it was. The tomato flavor is muted, and the sodium content has increased by nearly 30% compared to the original formula. A single serving, 2 tablespoons, now contains 510 milligrams of sodium. That is 22% of the daily recommended limit for people over 60, consumed in a single pour of sauce. If you grill twice a week, you are adding over 5.00 milligrams of extra sodium every single week just from the barbecue sauce. For someone managing hypertension, taking an ACE inhibitor or a beta blocker, this is a serious problem. But the sodium is not the only concern. Heinz reformulated this sauce to include caramel coloring, phosphoric acid, and something called natural smoke flavor. Phosphoric acid is used in soft drinks to add tang and help with preservation. It serves no purpose in a barbecue sauce except to cut costs on other ingredients and extend shelf life. When consumed regularly, especially by people over 60 who may already have kidney concerns, phosphoric acid can accelerate mineral loss from bone. The natural smoke flavor is where the marketing becomes almost cruel. Heinz does not smoke this sauce. No one smokes it. The smoke flavor comes from a chemical compound created in a laboratory. It is derived from wood smoke, but it is not the same as actually smoking food. It is cheaper. It is consistent. It does not require any actual smoking process, but it is listed as natural because the source compound comes from nature, even though the extraction and processing are entirely industrial. When you apply this sauce to meat and grill it, you are not getting the taste of real wood smoke applied to barbecue. You are getting the taste of a laboratory chemical that mimics what smoke tastes like. For over 40 years, Heinz positioned this as an advantage, the taste you trust. The truth is simpler. It is the taste you got used to. Here is where the story becomes important for your health specifically. Heinz sells this sauce as a staple. Families use it weekly. People over 60 who grew up with this brand often use it without question because it is what they have always done. They apply it to chicken, to ribs, to pulled pork. They use it as a glaze, as a dipping sauce, as a marinade. They consume it in quantities that far exceed 2 tablespoons per serving. When you use this sauce as a marinade, soaking meat in it for an hour before cooking, you are not consuming 2 tablespoons. You are consuming potentially half a cup or more. The sodium load is not 510 milligrams. It is over 5,000 milligrams in one meal. If you take blood pressure medication, if you manage kidney disease, if you have been told to watch your sodium intake, this single decision, using Heinz as a marinade, can spike your blood pressure for days. The reformulation happened gradually. Heinz did not announce it. They did not send letters to longtime customers. They did not put a red banner on the label saying, "Formula changed." They changed it quietly across a 5-year period, making small adjustments each year so that long-term shoppers would not notice the shift. By the time the transformation was complete, the original formula was gone, but consumer memory of the original formula remained. This is the strategy. Make the change slow enough that most people do not notice. Keep the label recognizable, so people do not think anything has changed. Let consumer memory do the work. They remember the original formula, so they believe they are still buying it. Meanwhile, the actual product in the bottle has been optimized for profit, not for your health. Wait, this is the moment I promised you at the beginning. This is where the real revelation comes clear. You have been sold a story, not a sauce. Every single brand on this list, from KC Masterpiece owned by a bleach company, to Bullseye with 2 different formulas for 2 different countries, to Open Pit hiding sodium phosphate in plain sight, to Jack Daniels made nowhere near Jack Daniels, to Heinz changing its recipe without telling you, every one of these brands is betting that you will not read the label. They are betting that you will trust the brand name, the heritage story, or the shelf position more than you will trust your own eyes reading the ingredients. And that bet has paid off for 40 years. Here is what I want you to do this week. Here is the practical action that will protect your health and your family's health. The next time you buy barbecue sauce, spend 2 minutes reading the ingredient list. Not the front label, not the claims about natural or traditional or from a legacy brand. Read the actual ingredients. Look for high fructose corn syrup in the first 3 positions. Look for sodium phosphate anywhere in the first 5 ingredients. Look for modified cornstarch, which indicates a commercial product, not a handmade one. If any of these appear, put the bottle back. Your body will thank you. Your blood pressure will thank you. Your kidneys will thank you. Your doctor will notice the change at your next checkup because your numbers will be better. This is not about never eating barbecue sauce again. This is about knowing what you are actually putting into your body and making a choice based on that knowledge, not on marketing. I have been exposing these brands for one reason, so that you walk into the grocery store knowing exactly what to look for and what to avoid, so that you are never again fooled by a heritage story or a legacy name or a corporate reputation, so that the next time you reach for something labeled heart-healthy or traditional or made with natural ingredients, you stop for 2 seconds, flip the bottle around, and actually read what you are about to buy. That is the power you have. That is the choice that matters. Thank you so much for watching this entire video. If this information was helpful to you, please subscribe to this channel so you do not miss our brand warnings and safer alternative guides every single week. Leave a comment below and share which of these brands surprised you the most. I read every single comment, and your feedback helps me know which grocery categories to investigate next. And please tap that notification bell so you never walk into a supermarket unprepared again. We will see you in the next video.